Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Snapshot episode 43. I'm Brendan Patrick, joined always by Marvel Snap phenom Cam Best. Cam, how was your week in Marvel Snap Twitch drops number 2?
Yeah. That is how my week in Marvel Snap was. I just played Marvel Snap, and then I 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 played a little bit more Marvel Snap. It was exhausting. It was phenomenal. It was rewarding. One of the things I think about Twitch drops a lot of the time is that it really mostly benefits the streamers who are like first in the category or second in the category during whatever time slot, right? And I never really thought that would be me, but thanks to TwitchCon, a lot of the other people in my time slot were not there, and so I was able to just be the top person in the Marvel Snap category during a time like that, and that was a crazy amount of attention, a crazy amount of people to manage, and I am grateful for that. I do worry that Twitch drops are a little bit top heavy, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
The people who get the biggest boost from them are the people who need that the least, but I don't really have a better idea.
It's a positive impact. I mean, it's a tried and true system, at least to boost viewership, whether that boosts retention. It probably percolates down to retention. Let's be real. There is a non-zero factor that is good for the game. And the reason why it is top heavy is because a lot of Twitch drops is farming. People do farm for those Twitch drops. There's websites where you can do all that stuff. And, you know, those websites you just pick the biggest one. You're like, okay, get my Twitch drops, good to go. But I do think, like I said, non-zero amount of new eyes, new people, and exposure to streams that may have not had it before. But like you said, I remember looking at Twitch when Twitch drops was going on and seeing some of those people at the top in that 6,000, 8,000 range. Like that is a number that at frequent times during the day is actually encapsulates the entire Marvel Snap category, to put in perspective.
More than, I would say.
Yeah, it is a wild thing. How was your experience compared to the first iteration of Twitch drops?
I just devoted myself to this one more, I think. And there's also more time in this one. In the previous one, it was just like, you know, do your Twitch drops. And then, you know, the first day was like the really, really, really big day. But this one is like an extended event. And so it's been just like, you know, a 9-hour stream and then 4 7-hour streams. And that's basically what I've done, which is like almost 2 normal weeks worth crammed into a week.
Yeah, I remember last time you fortunately and unfortunately, you had to go to Hong Kong to cast that event. So at least this time you got a full round of it. But yeah, I'm happy that they seem committed to doing this. I mean, it gets a good reception from the creators. It's a way to support your creators on Twitch, and it seems to be successful. You know, Marvel Snap is a game that's based around upgrading your cards, getting new variants, things like that, and it seems like it's. You know, this just goes hand in hand with that. So Twitch drops number 2, successful. Thumbs up. Yes, do it again. Happy for it. All right. Well, something else happened this week.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm always happy when what's effectively happening is people are being paid to watch my stream. So yeah, I'm a big fan. I'll keep doing that. I like subsidies.
Yeah, that's a good value prop right there. Another thing happened this week. Black Knight released it. Was a 1/2 set. After you discard a card, add the Ebony Blade to your hand. With that card's power, once per game, and Ebony Blade was a 4/0. You and I talked quite a bit about this card, theory crafting it. We were a bit low on it at the time, at least in theory crafting. We talked about, you know, the high roll, what you could potentially do. But ultimately, in terms of what makes decks good in Marvel Snap, didn't seem to really have the components of that. How do you feel about Black Knight sort of post-release, now being able to have a chance to play with it?
I think it's actually better than I thought, but that's not a ringing endorsement in the sense of like, I still probably wouldn't go out and buy it. I think by the time it ends up being actually good, it'll probably be back in boxes. I know it's going to be in boxes in December alongside some other interesting cards. And I think right now, the Spotlight Cash cards alongside it are pretty marginal. Spending 6,000 tokens on it is definitely a no. And so it's very hard for me to find a situation where someone who is not a whale should be getting this card. It is unfortunate because like if this was a card that if it wasn't so expensive, right? If there was like a way to acquire this card that wasn't so punishing, it's the kind of card that could really do with some experimentation. And I know multiple people in the top 200 have been playing Black Knight decks. Like it's not trash, but it's like because it's so limited in terms of the kind of person who should get it, it might not get the kind of experimentation it needs until it runs around back into the boxes.
Yeah, and we spoke to lead game designer, principal game designer, actually, Glenn Jones on this podcast a while ago, and I'm pretty sure he said that they don't base series off of power. Like that is not the goal. Whether or not that actually happens, I mean, tinfoil hat, whatever. I don't know what people are thinking these days, but a card like Black Knight probably would have been better placed at a lower price, probably maybe like a series 4 initially. Like series 5 it's a lot to dish out. I feel like most people, at least this is how the previous iteration of the system was, and I think it's been extrapolated till now. If there's a card that comes out of series 5, that card's got to be busted for you to pick it up. We're just gonna wait.
Yep, that's pretty much that's the issue. Like if you release just a good card at that price point, it becomes sort of like, well, why would I do that then? Because the average player, if you're a free to play player, you get 6,000 tokens twice a year. So you can only use those on the 2 best cards in the pool, which unless you're doing massive power creep, there's a bunch of cards that are like good that deserve experimentation that just get left behind because of this. Lady Deathstrike is an example of how this works, right? And I think a lot of people try to look at this and be like, yo, it's because the people aren't creative enough. It's because I see this a lot. It's like content creators say it's bad, so people don't try. It's not that. It's just that it's not good enough to buy.
That's so funny.
Right?
That's so funny, Cam, because I feel like I see the literal opposite, where content creators say that shit cards are good, and then people buy them and they get pissed off. Yeah, I feel like,
there is some of that, but like I see it like there's a specific type of take that bugs me where it's like someone is like, oh, well, it's the community is just not creative enough.
Yeah,
they're too busy net decking. Like it's like, shut up, man, shut up. Dude. It's not their fault that this costs $10 million, or it's not their fault that given the choice between buying Lady Deathstrike and buying Jeff, they bought Jeff. That's the correct decision, right? Like it's a question of the economy the game is in, right? Yeah. Like it's not like, oh, the community just doesn't have an appetite for experiments with Lady Deathstrike. It's like, no, they can't fucking afford it.
Yeah, that's a copium that actually transcends card games. So it's happening in Flesh and Blood right now. Like the most recent set wasn't the most impactful. There are some impactful cards, but there's particularly 3 new heroes introduced that are just not the power level of the top heroes, and they're nuanced. They're definitely nuanced. You don't see them be like, I know exactly what to do with that hero. So we're a couple weeks into the set, and there's always this sort of what do you call that? Whenever people will say this about the hero, they'll say, it's not that good yet. It looks pretty bad, but maybe it's just too complicated. People just haven't figured it out yet. And you're like, yep. I don't know about that.
Or it's bad.
Yeah,
who can say?
Or maybe it's just a giant pile of dog
But like
shit.
something with Black Knight, Lady Deathstrike, these are not like overly complicated cards. Their power is like pretty clear, right? What they do is pretty good. It's just they're pretty good. And instead of getting them, people get cards that are great. And like that's just how it is, right? Like unless you're a Mondo Whale, I don't think you're supposed to pick this card up, because even if the decks it plays that like I see being played are good, and I think they're like okay, right? But like even if the decks that I see being played are good, there's probably a better option. So why would you not play the better option, right? Why would you spend 6,000 tokens for the worse option? And like there are cards that are going to fall by the wayside because of that. And I think Black Knight actually is one of those cards that's like, okay, if enough people had this, maybe it would go somewhere. Maybe it wouldn't. I don't know. But it is constrained by the price point.
Yeah. And it's definitely not doing Loki things, I'll tell you that. Official leader.
Right. Something has to be like super broken, right? That's when it's good to pick it up. And so that's the other thing, right? Because when something is good to pick it up, everyone jumps on it. And then everyone's like, oh, why do people play this so much? It's like, well, what else are they going to play? That's where they spent their tokens. Like, what do you want them to do? Not play the Alioth they just got? Like, come on.
I feel like every card, at least until we see something happen to Elsa, is going to be filtered through the context of like there is basically a 211 in the format. Like that's just it's just crazy. So official leaderboard launched. You can actually go look at the leaderboards. They separated out on regionality if you want to see that. I just want to get your thoughts because you compete on the leaderboard frequently. You're grinding.
Didn't even notice.
Didn't even know it, but it's cool though. It's a cool thing they found.
Sure.
Actually, is it cool or should they just had it on launch? They probably should have had it on launch. But
I don't know. Either one. It's just like, sure, yeah. I mean, I have a number by my name. That's what I care about.
Yeah, I think it's better for those like we talked about with like obviously this is a tangent from the original subject of Twitch drops, but for those newer content creators that are trying to break in, if you are able to grind the leaderboard, get up to those high numbers, like now other people can see it, right? It's not just like, hey, tune in my stream, then you see the numbers. So it does help them in that way. And it's cool to see. It's cool to see the top 10 players recognize some names. I know a lot of top players I know don't go by their names anymore. They're all meme names. You guys literally all changed your names to like some just random.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah. Anyway. All right. Okay. And we got a big Bend and Snap section this week. I mean, it's actually crazy. I do a few podcasts. That's probably no secret. None of them come close in terms of engagement, questions. Like, I mean, and people are engaging with each other in our comment sections. We can actually it's very insightful too. So we appreciate that a lot.
Podcasting phenom, Brendan Patrick.
Honestly, no, fan base phenom, Snapshot listeners, because I mean, they hit us with a lot of stuff to talk about, to be honest. Like, it's great.
Fan base phenom, but both are spelled with a PH.
Yeah, PH. All right, first one. Mahamo Tactical says, hope that SC doesn't address Elsa in the same way they did Loki by nerfing all the cards around it, making a bunch of other fine decks worse than the Crossfire. It's a really bad look for cards only accessible by purchase. We talked about this a little bit with Loki. It's like,
yeah, I don't even know what to say. Like, yeah, of course, I agree with that.
Well, so there is a statement that we are taking as true there, which is that they are actually nerfing cards all around it rather than actually addressing the problem, which I think might not be a controversial opinion right now, but it would have been, maybe a couple weeks ago. It was like, do you think that do you think they're beating around the bush, not hitting Loki or Elsa?
I think they objectively did with Loki. Mm-hmm. Like, they very objectively did beat around the bush there. But like previously they haven't, right? Like, they nerfed Zabu at the earliest possible opportunity. They nerfed Silver Surfer at the same time. And like, that's actually the time frame we're kind of in right now, right? Like, in that time frame, people think of it as like a very early nerf, but we aren't 5 weeks out from Elsa release yet, Mm-hmm. Like, we're in the middle of Zabu season. It's just now we actually have the ability to, advocate for something to happen. So, I don't necessarily think that, but like, keep in mind, again, like, Silver Surfer +3 had the highest win rate they ever tracked in Glenn's tenure, and they just left it there for like a month.
It was a pretty good card. Can confirm. Did get a chance to play with it.
Like, you're talking about Elsa. It's like, Elsa, oh wow, that's like a 211. It's like, all right, well, what if we had a 318? What if we had like a 321? You know what I mean? Like, it was one of those kind of situations where it's like, all right, this card is super messed up and it's usually a 318, and it was just there for like 2 months. So like, I don't know if it's so much that like they beat around the bush so much as they're just willing to see how changing context changes things. But yeah, obviously I'd rather they nerf other stuff than Elsa. But to be clear, they already nerfed Kitty Pryde in advance of Elsa. Mm-hmm. And I think the interesting thing is like the cards that surround Elsa, the context that makes her strong. It's like Jeff, Kitty Pryde, Nightcrawler, Vision. Outside of those cards, I honestly think she's pretty balanced. It's just those cards are also really strong. So obviously I would nerf Elsa, but I also think that the fact that it's literally Jeff and Kitty, right? Like, what changes are you going to make to those cards to make giving them 3 power not awesome?
Yeah.
Right? Like, what are you going to do to those cards to make that not awesome? Like with Loki, you get it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes sense.
You can be like, all right. yeah, like I what we're gonna do is we're gonna hit the big power stat stick of the collector, right? We're gonna release Mobius so that they don't get all the energy cheat anymore. Like it's kind of fine, right? And like you could see that now with the Loki Elsa decks. They're very much like Elsa decks more than they are Loki decks. And so you end up in this situation where like the Loki stuff, you get it. But like with Elsa, I mean, I don't know how you do anything other than change her. I don't know how you lead a design process that comes to the conclusion it is something other than her. With Loki, I get how you can do it. I just think it would be the wrong decision. With Elsa, it's like, I don't understand how you could look at this situation and be like, you know what? It's actually Vision that's the problem.
Mm. Yeah. All right. Well, this is kind of a follow-up question. It comes from Michael Elam, and they say, with all the nerfs going around as of late, are there any card buffs that, in your opinion, could help flatten out the meta? We talked about one last week, actually. Arrow. We said maybe bring back Arrow, bring back some derivative of old Arrow. What comes to mind for you, Cam? Some buffs that you could give to cards that would help equalize where we currently are.
Equalize where we currently are. I mean, do you really want that? Do you want us to equalize Elsa? Is that what, do you want more cards like that? I don't think we want to equalize where we I don't think we want to buff other cards to this level. I don't think that's the solution. This is not like the Mr. Burns, all your diseases are, fighting each other, and that's actually saving your life because they're all deadlocked kind of thing.
Wait,
that's not. We don't want to be.
What is this reference?
You don't know that one?
I'm not even gonna pretend like, because sometimes I'll just I'll let it go. But that one went over, hit my head, hit me.
Okay, so there's like an episode of The Simpsons where Mr. Burns is diagnosed with 40 different diseases, but his body is kept preserved through like the equilibrium they have all achieved between, like, they're all fighting each other basically. So like that is, instead of being incredibly sick, he ends up in perfect health, despite the fact that he has like 40 deadly diseases because they're all just like fighting each other.
Okay, makes sense.
And that is what we don't want. Marvel Snap. We don't want like a bunch of Elsas. We want no Elsas.
That's just power creep. Marvel Snap's interesting though because you can dynamically re-power creep the old cards, right? Which is not really what happens in something like Magic. I mean, if we don't see a change to something like Elsa Loki Stone, is that the answer? I mean, they're probably going to nerf Elsa. It's such an easy nerf too. They just chop off. I don't even think they changed the plus X power. They just chop off the body. Probably like 2-0, but we'll see.
I'm kind of wondering at this point. I used to be a let's put it at 2-0 guy, but now I'm kind of wondering like, all right, can we just put her to give +2, please?
Yeah, we talked about what we thought was our solution. It would be +2.5.
I'm getting there. I'm definitely getting towards like, oh man, that +2 is a little bit iffy, and that.
Yeah, well. First, let's call it for shits and gigs. What is a card do you think that we could buff that would actually sort of shake up this metagame in a reasonable way? Bring back old Galactus. I can see it.
You'd have to do something like that. Like it would have to be Galactus. That was actually the thing I was thinking of. It's like what would you do to hurt this like deck that is meant to be like, it's a setup deck, right? It's a setup deck that usually doesn't have priority and can very often play for that, right? Like it's yeah, you'd bring back Galactus. That's what she would do.
All right. This question comes from Adam7777, 4 sevens. They say, they need to make quite a bit more cards that win by you having priority because priority is never taught in the game. It is only ever learned by pattern recognition or by watching videos about it. What do they teach players? What do they teach players is to win 2 locations and win the game. So players are naturally going to try to stay ahead, try to get ahead and stay ahead the entire match. So cards that reward that should be available. So I think what Adam is saying is that there should be more cards, like I guess in the likeness of what used to be the bounce deck that actually. No.
I think he's saying there should be more Eliaths.
Eliaths, okay. Do you agree with that?
I agree it's a niche that should probably be filled. It's just hard to create a card that rewards having priority by something other than winning the game immediately, right? Like, that's the issue. The closest they got to that is Arrow, right? Old Arrow. But too often, because of Wave, she was you win the game immediately. So like when you talk about rewarding having priority, my question would be, can you come up with a version of a card that rewards having priority that does not read win the game immediately when you have priority? Because all of them previously have been this. They've tried, even specifically with Eliath, to be like, let's tone this down. Let's be like, all right, look, this is only in one lane. Now you don't win the game if you have priority, you just win one lane, right? And there's like counterplay and stuff, but like it's still like that. So come up with a design that rewards having priority that doesn't read win the game. Like that would be my question. How would you do that? Because like if it doesn't read win the game, people won't play it. And if it does read win the game, everyone will hate it. We know that for a fact at this point. Like every time there's a priority card that says win the game, Arrow, Leader, Eliath, people fucking hate it.
Well, what about the cards that say when you don't have priority win the? I mean, they don't. They kind of.
I agree that's actually an under-discussed thing.
Well,
is the cards that like say when you don't have priority win the game, right? Like hit monkey decks. It's an under-discussed thing, and there does need to be counterplay to it. But like, those decks do that by playing cards on the board for aiming to win 2 out of 3 locations. They are fundamentally playing Marvel Snap. The Leader and Arrow and Eliath decks are like, actually, we're not playing Marvel Snap. We're playing the game where your cards don't matter. And like, that's the issue. Is like, how do you make a priority win con that isn't that? How do you make a win con that cares about priority that isn't something that fundamentally invalidates everything your opponent does?
I wonder if they don't want if priority is more of like a just a byproduct of Marvel Snap's game design rather than something they want to be sort of this dexterous skill that people manage at the casual to beginner level of the game. Because I do agree with Adam here, where you don't really figure it out till later, or people tell you about it, etc. It's actually just not explained to you. So maybe that's on purpose, but maybe it should be explained. Yeah, it is.
No, it definitely is on purpose. Like it's not something like they tell you, oh, look at the nameplates, but they don't tell you the mechanics of it, right?
The question, it's not that it's complicated. The thing is, like, it's not that it's complicated. I'm not saying like people are too. And they're not saying, I don't think either, that people are too stupid to understand it or not intelligent enough. But there is an aspect of game design where like there's like, oh, this mechanic of our game is not actually very fun, you know? So maybe we could introduce to our players, but it's like this really tedious other axis you have to compete on, you know?
Like it's definitely not a fun thing, and they don't want like their onboarding experience is phenomenal, right? So they figure by the time you're really into the game, you'll figure it out.
Yeah. All right. Our next one comes from Fitz. See, I can't pronounce the last name here, it could just be a gamer tag, to be honest. So I'll just say Fitz. And they say, also totally agree that on adding some more end game, doing the daily missions is enough to play to get everything useful from the shop and reach infinite. I would love some actual incentive to do well in Conquest. Rank would be interesting if the game wasn't pay to win, but it's the FTP. Okay, basically, forget that part. FTP, pay to win, rank. We can talk about that later. But I want to ask you about end game. In Marvel Snap, because right now it is hit infinite, compete on the leaderboard, or just do daily missions. I just want to get your thoughts on potential like chain reworks to the Conquest system, right? So more Conquest incentives to actually engage with the system season by season, and also potential for like a limited format, like another format you can engage with.
I would love Marvel Snap Limited. I think almost everyone that plays Marvel Snap is nostalgic for the new player experience on some level, like being able to do that. I would love a format that was just like, pool 2 draft or something. That'd be super fun. I would love to be able to do that. I think in terms of like reworking Conquest, like let's talk about why you think that's necessary, because to me, my read on Conquest is it is simply not a competitive mode. And it was the competitive mode du jour because the ladder was infested with bots, right? And Conquest was where none of them were. And as soon as ladder leaderboard came out and they got rid of the bots, people actually had something to play for. And I promise you that the better players on the servers are playing in high infinite versus in your Conquests.
For sure.
Every single time.
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason to play Conquest 2, right? I mean, if there's a leaderboard that has number next to name, like there is actually no reason for the better players to be playing. Do you think that Conquest is the better competitive format?
I think I could just be bullshitting here. Mm-hmm. This is just my like little idle thought that I've had. I think Conquest rewards traditional card game skills better, while Ladder rewards poker skills better.
Makes sense.
And what I mean by that is in Conquest, there's a lot of situations where playing to your outs is the play, right? You are locked in, like you're up 8-2 and it's a 2-cube game, so you have to play to your outs and make the smart play, right? Or you're down 8-2 and it's a 2-cube game, so you just got to win the game in front of you. There's a lot of situations in Conquest where you just have to win the game in front of you and the wagering is taken out of it, right? On Ladder, the wagering is never taken out of it. And so playing to your outs, staying in this game to figure out what's going on, all of that, that's not really as much of a part of Ladder. The betting is what matters. Winning the amount of games that you go in for, right? Winning your games is... I guess I think the Conquest format introduces more scenarios where the betting doesn't matter, just by definition, because there are some scenarios where the betting doesn't matter, right? Like you're down to your last cube, or your opponent is down to your last cube, and that's where, like, people who played a bunch of traditional card games, I think that's why they like that more, personally.
Yeah, I think it just adds another, in terms of like competitive, it adds another layer where it's like understanding your opponent's deck, not playing around them, mind gaming and things like that.
All the stuff that a traditional card gamer loves, right? Like if you're a Magic player and you're like, okay, now I know what my opponent is playing, I'm going to crush games 2 and 3. You know, you like Conquest, right? You can't do that on Ladder. You feel like Ladder's a little bit random, right? Like that's it's different skill sets.
Yeah. Back to another part of the question, which is adding in incentives to keep engaging with Conquest. So technically they do this, right? There is a new variant. There's things in the shop, but it's not the same as like you have to reach some amount of wins. You have to get infinite conquests, etc. It's more of a participation, kind of like engage with the system. You get the variant. Would you want to see any more added to like that end game and competitive aspect of Conquest, or do you just think it's perfect where it is?
I don't want another fucking thing I have to grind.
I guess it would have to be one or the other, right? Or it would just be pain.
Yes, like I don't want to have to do 2 of them. Well, come on.
I don't think you would have to, actually, because if they release 2 and they say we have current state of Infinite Ladder, it's public, your name, number, etc. They did the same thing for Conquest. One format would just become the de facto competitive format, and then the other format would hold less weight, right?
So then what would the point of doing that be?
There would be no point. The player base would simply just go to one,
we
right?
have arrived. Yeah. We have arrived in the exact same... so there's no point in doing that then.
I think they could add more rewards, cosmetic rewards for performing well in Conquest that don't feel like you need to achieve them. You need to get them. But if you want to go get another border or get some special variant that you can only get by achieving some hard to reach goal, some aspirational goal, I think that would be cool, because you can skip it if you want. Who cares? It's a cosmetic. But right now it's like, oh, well, I got my one infinite border 4 months ago.
Yeah, that I don't even use.
I know. Well, now Infinite Borders, and I might make some people angry saying this, is like they were cool for like, probably 0 hours, but maybe 12 hours. And then after that, it was like everybody had them. And then we know the key metric of people, of like a flex or something people want to show off is actually not how cool it is. It's just other people not having it. It was like pixel variants.
It's exclusivity. I remember when pixels were a flex.
Oh yeah.
Don't think I don't remember that shit. When pixels were only available if you opened them in collection track boxes at like a 5% chance, they were a flex then. They're not now because everyone has them.
All right. Next question comes from Matt Mefford. They say, question for next week. I feel like Snap has become less fun because there are more hard counters. Example, I played Conquest and didn't have Mobius in my deck. They ran Loki. I had to just quit. How is that fun? At least with Shang-Chi, it's like, can they guess what lane I'm going in? When attack cards become mandatory, the deck types shrink and the game is not fun, period.
I mean, I disagree with the last 6 words of that, probably. But the rest of it seems kind of on point, right? Like, yeah, that's an accurate observation of what the meta is there.
How do you feel about hard counters and hosers, or like, these hate bear kind of cards?
I wouldn't have such a problem with Mobius if there were more things that did what he did, but it's just like, it's also like the thing with Mobius is like, it's not his fault, actually. It's Elsa's fault. Because Elsa has put the metagame in such a place where it's like, all right, well, look, you don't actually have to run a proactive game plan anymore. You have Elsa. You don't have to like put rocks in your deck for a Darkhawk or whatever the fuck. You don't have to play Shuri for a Red Skull, and you don't need a plan. You just you need bodies. You need bodies to fill up the Elsa lane, all right? And when you look for the bodies, it's like, all right, so, okay, here are the bodies that work well with Elsa, Jeff, Kitty, Nightcrawler, Vision. And then you want some more bodies. So what bodies do you get? You get, like, the bodies that can free win you games, Luke Cage and Mobius. And it's like, oh, okay, that's very straightforward, right? You get, like, Luke Cage, you get Mobius, you get Shang-Chi, you get Rogue, because you don't have to care about the actual power impact of these cards because they're getting buffed to high heaven by Elsa Bloodstone. You have a 211, right? Like you have a 215. So the rest of your deck can just take the day off and be good when it has to be good.
So yeah, it's super interesting. I mean, I agree with Caden here, where it's like I like the tech cards and the counterplay of tech cards, but when you add in, and again, Caden was also alluding to playing a game of Conquest, which is like that's a commitment. You're committing to a set of games, and when there's a very powerful hate bear card like Mobius, and you have to what appears, or maybe it might be an objective fact that you have to just kind of give that game up. That sucks. That's actually pretty
well
bad.
What he's talking about is he didn't bring Mobius and his opponent was playing Loki and he just died.
Yeah, and
that's 100% true. That'll absolutely happen to you. Do not leave home without the guy if you just die to Loki. Like, you can't do it. And that does suck because it does constrict deck building. It constricts deck building to decks that can reasonably run Mobius. But like the reason deck building is constricted is because of Elsa too. Because it's like, do you have a better idea than doing this? Like, do you have a better idea than a bunch of tech cards and a bunch of free points? Because I doubt that you do.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I'm keen to see where they take the design of cards like Mobius in the future and think, because I don't hate the card on paper, I guess. Like when it was first published and Loki was like a very released, and Loki is a very powerful deck. I was like, okay, that seems fine, right? Also, I thought the card was just not going to be good enough against Loki because you have the better sort of objective paradigm, right? Like basically your deck is powerful.
Isn't.
Yeah.
It kind of isn't good enough against Loki.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, you have the better paradigm, right? Like it's like if your deck literally is you have the best deck. Your deck is going to do powerful things. Your opponent has to draw this card and it doesn't 100% beat you, but they also need to get it like at the right turn. And like they're jumping through hoops, you're not. You're just doing your thing.
Yes.
You always want to be that guy. You always want to be that guy. Anyway, next question comes from, that was kind of it. But I mean, next one comes from Richie. They basically say, I had a thought about a 5-location game mode with 20 card decks. And a card like Doom would be locations next to where he's played. And I was thinking about different kind of game modes, how they can work in Snap. So one thing I'll say, Richie, is like, that one's probably off the table just because of actual limitations in the client, right? That would be a lot for them. But I want to get your thoughts, Cam, on alternate game. I know we talked about limited already, but are alternate game modes a thing that you could see happening in Snap? You want to happen in Snap? Like even think about Hearthstone. Hearthstone has that the tavern or whatever. I don't know. They just like shake up the game.
Are you talking about Battlegrounds?
No, not Battlegrounds.
Oh, you're talking about Tavern Brawls.
Yeah,
you're talking about Tavern Brawls.
Well, Magic has it too. Magic Arena, where it's like, oh, you get to play this week and you can get a cosmetic and it's like Omniscience deck or whatever, and you get to play.
No, that'd be cool. That'd be cool. I think what Snap does is try to replicate that with hot locations. Mm-hmm. And I think the issue with that is they make the hot locations mandatory, right? Yeah. Like if you're playing, you have to play with the stupid location. If it is a stupid one, like if you didn't want to play against every Green Goblin deck in existence, you shouldn't have queued up when the Bar Sinister was the hot location. Sorry, buddy. I think that Yeah, I mean, I've always been pretty anti hot and featured locations. I think, perhaps if they made them like weekly events with a cosmetic reward, or like in tavern brawls where you get like a pack or whatever. I don't know. Yeah, that would be nice, right?
Yep. I think most people don't like hot locations. Let us know if you like them. I liked them in the beginning. I'll tell you. Oh, I didn't like them, but I thought they were interesting in the beginning. Like back in the day when the Infinite Climb was really hard. For some reason, I was just like getting the same 7 to 10 people. I would actually enjoy when I would get a respite from that experience. There was a new hot location, and I could just go get a broken deck before everybody else did and cheese a few wins. That was a cool idea at first, but then I remember getting the one that effectively like Mr. Negatives your deck. I remember playing that. Yes, that was the weekend that I remember. There's like OP One Piece regionals, and I was like hanging out at that event, seeing some friends, and it was just like the most garbage thing I've ever played in my life. So I think hot locations.
Oh damn! You don't need to be that harsh on One Piece, man. Come on.
One Piece is. I don't play One Piece.
You just said it was the most garbage thing you ever played in your life.
No,
man.
Playing Peak was the most garbage thing in my life.
You just completely no-sold that, man. Right. I was trying to like controversy farm. Brendan Patrick says One Piece TCG is the worst card game he's ever played in his life.
Oh, trust me, I've got controversies for days when it comes to hot takes about card games, but unfortunately, One Piece is actually a pretty good game. Bandai.
Wait, while I've got you here, I saw you made a post like over under this card will be played in the best deck, right?
So it's a meme,
and I wanted to ask you. It's a meme. Okay, so you do know how over unders work, right?
Yes.
Okay, is that the meme?
So the meme is. Basically, there's a deck in Flesh and Blood right now which just rotated out, but they basically it has reached Living Legend, a system that you are very fond of.
Okay, yes, it's very cool.
But it will not leave the format until right before the World Championships. That being said, this weekend, stupid. Well, it's fine. This weekend there was a tournament where that hero was legal. And that hero did not win. And there was a commanding performance out of another hero that just got an upgrade in the newest set. And the big meme. Or like the meme is that like, of course, everybody's now on Twitter complaining about banning that hero, and the new hero to hate is sort of already on the menu. And then Brian Gottlieb, lead designer of Flesh and Blood, tweeted that picture of Ben Affleck smoking the cigarette outside, just like, holy shit.
yeah, sure, absolutely.
So,
but my question remains. You tweeted over under. Oh, this card will appear in the world championship winning deck. And my question to you is. Do you know how over-unders work?
The thing is like, I think so, but now you're making me question that.
Okay, so when you say over-under, there needs to be a number that you pick over or under.
So the the under is it's not in the deck list. The over is it's in the deck list.
That's not how over-unders
That's how they work. That's how they work. 100%. Under is the binary 0, and over is the binary 1. Bro, you don't hang out at enough convention centers. This is card gamer terminology. But yeah, the meme basically there is that I don't know, this card that exists in a deck that won the tournament is going to the World Championship deck because it's new. No,
I got that. I was really just focused on the over under thing.
Well, I'll tell
how
you
many
what.
copies? How many copies? Because like that's the thing. Like how many copies of that card go in a deck? Is that you could be like over under 4. Then you could actually. You see where I'm going with this, right?
I'll tell you what, Cam. You could ask me questions about anything that exists in this universe in that fashion, and I would probably question my reality of whether it was true or not. You got me scared. It was like, you don't over under me? I was like, shit, I thought I did.
Are you sure?
I was like, what's going on?
Like, I read that tweet and I was like, I like, it's the like idiot. Because like now I watch a lot of sports, and if you watch a lot of sports, you're inundated with like gambling terminology. So I just know all this stuff now, right? Mm-hmm. Like I didn't know what an over under was 5 years ago. I didn't know that. Shout out to bleep these names out, DraftKings and FanDuel, for fucking making that the thing that I know now. But like, yeah. So I saw that and I was like, is that part of the joke, or is this like I couldn't figure it out.
The joke's like an onion, bro. It's just got layers. It's peeling it back.
Okay.
What's that reference?
Shrek.
There you go. Champ. All right, you ready to cook?
How old do you think I am?
I don't know. All right, we're cooking with this last question. I actually messed up earlier too. We're talking about the Mobius question.
Are we cooking with an onion?
Not quite. We're talking about Matt's question, not Caden's. Caden's is a bit more spicy. So Caden Johnson says, Marvel Snap hot take. That's how you should preface every question you ask us, by the way, because that's what I like.
That doesn't even sound like a question.
Yeah, it's not. There's a period at the end here. I think given the current meta, that Silver Surfer should be reverted back to its old form, giving you three cost cards plus 3. The reason why it was so good in the past was because of the current power level. And with Sarah taking a small dip from the meta share due to Mobius, as well as Shadow King, I think a lot more decks could handle Silver Surfer in its original form. So hashtag buff Silver Surfer or revert the nerf.
Okay. I have made this proposal before as a joke, but I want you to keep in mind exactly how much we complain about Elsa Bloodstone. And do you remember the part of the podcast, like probably 20, 30 minutes ago, where I was like, you don't need more Elsa Bloodstones. You actually need less Elsa Bloodstones. And what you've proposed here, sir, is what if we made second Elsa Bloodstone?
Hell yeah. I mean,
so like
KM Best, thief of joy, game designer of no fun. You want to turn every.
What if we just made everything into Elsa Bloodstone? Yeah, sure. Why not? Why not make Zabu give a power to your 4-cost cards too? Sure, fuck it. Whatever, man. Like, no, I think that Silver Surfer is the kind of deck that it's good to have around in a format because it tends to keep a lot of bullshit down. But it had the same issue that I don't know how people forget this. Like, the thing that made Silver Surfer so fucking annoying was that it was a very powerful points deck that ran Cosmo and Armor, so you just had proactive shit too, right? Like, Armor wasn't even a card the deck needed. It just ran it to screw over any Deathwave deck that was trying to like blow up a Bucky, right? It was like it could just do that. It could do that again, right? Like, you just like play whatever you play. Like, what was the curve? It's like Iceman, Armor, one other 2-drop of your choice. People played Goose. It was never good. And then like 3s, right? And it's like, okay, why would you want that back? Why would you want another deck full of proactive, annoying ass fucking tech cards that get 3 more power than they should ever reasonably have on a very consistent basis, except instead of having to draw that card and play it on turn 2, you can just draw it on turn 6 and it works fucking retroactively.
You think that Silver Surfer would be the best deck if it said +3?
Yes.
Okay. Interesting.
What, do you think you wouldn't play Elsa in it too? What are we fucking talking about here?
All right, let's put some constraints on it. You can't play Elsa on the Surfer deck or something. I don't know.
Why can't I play Elsa on the Surfer deck? What are we talking about here?
We're living in magical Christmas time.
Brother, I am about to fucking go like Elsa into Brood into Jeff. Fucking move the Jeff over, start playing Visions there. Then my final turn is a bunch of broken shit, dude. What are we talking about here?
Yeah.
Yes, it would be insane. It would be completely insane.
It'd be decent. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, yeah, that's a word.
I love the Marvel Snap hot takes. Hit us with them next week. We'll get them queued up. But yeah, thank you all so much for your questions. It's great. Like, we appreciate it so much. So if you want to get your question read out in next week's podcast, shoot it to us. I always like stumble over this one in the YouTube comments below, maybe because it's midnight. And thank you again for the questions. All right, Cam.
Over under. What time is it right now?
Over under. Yep. That you'd be surprised. That wouldn't make a lot of sense to a lot of people that play card games.
Over under. Does that make sense?
Yeah, over. It makes sense. See, it's just it's a false negative kind of thing. Okay. Best decks in the format. What did you learn from playing so much during Twitch drops? What are you looking at right now?
Yeah, okay, what I learned is if you have $10, go buy Elsa Bloodstone. I am paid 2,000 gold a month by Marvel Snap. I have to legally disclose that because I just said go buy Elsa Bloodstone. But if you have $10, go get the stupid card. It's stupid. It's big. It's a very, very big, large card. She does points, and then you win games because she does points.
Well, and if you're like, well, what kind of deck do I put her in? I put her in a deck like this: Kitty Pryde, Maria Hill, Snowguard, Angela, Elsa Bloodstone, Mirage, Jeff, Mobius, Rogue, Loki, Shang-Chi, America Chavez.
Yep.
So let's take the cake.
You know how many points she does here?
How
she
many?
Does so many points. She does so many points. I'm not even going to make the over/under joke. I was kind of setting up.
What's the over/under on her points?
not gonna make the joke, but she does so many points that you can cut Collector. That's messed up.
How?
That's just a messed up thing that you're like, oh, this combination that dominated the metagame. We don't actually need it. We've got plenty of points to spare. Let's just play more tech instead.
By what order of magnitude is this the best deck?
I don't even know if it is an order of magnitude. The Thanos deck exists and is good. It's not good into this, but like it exists and is a good deck. It's fine. And then it's like, okay, the question you're asking is basically, by what order of magnitude is this better than Elsa move? Mm-hmm. And, the answer is an order of magnitude, right? Like it shit stomps that deck. It's a much better deck. And this is the thing about the Loki deck. It's not just that it wins the mirrors against the other mid-range Elsa decks because you're a Loki deck. It's that when you are a Loki deck, you get to build your deck better. Which is to say, look at all those 1-drops you have. Your best case scenario for Elsa in every case is you get her active on turn 3 by going 1-drop, 2-drop, Elsa Kitty. That's your best one, right? It only gets better than that if you go 1-drop, 2-drop, Kitty Jeff, right? And this the first 2-drop is Elsa, right? That's the best thing you can do. And all the other Elsa decks, they don't have the luxury of running all these 1-drops, right? They have to care about shit like card quality and all that. And you don't, because you're Loki. You don't have to care about that at all. You don't have to care about your card quality. You just get their cards. You turn your Maria Hill bullshit, your Snowguard bullshit into their cards. Who gives a shit, right? So you get to play 3 1-drops in your Elsa deck, which is better than every other Elsa deck. And you get to win the mirrors because you're the Loki deck. Man. Because it shits on mid-range mirrors. So it's just it's not just that you win mirrors, it's that being this version of the deck lets you be a better Elsa deck.
I will die on the hill. Elsa's overtuned. That's it. That's not my hill, by the way. That's not my hill.
Brave stand.
That's not my hill.
Stand.
I was caveating before my hill. My hill that I will die on, that I've died on since literally before this card came out, is that Loki is fundamentally broken. That card is
another brave stand from Brendan Patrick.
That is a brave stand. That is brave. It's shockingly brave. Well,
are you sure?
I mean, people are coming around. I've been saying this for weeks, but you can't tell me, you can't unironically say the statement that like, oh, you just play their cards, but for cheaper. And it's like, there's no world where that will ever be fine, okay, balanced, fair, fun, etc. I mean, fun
in another game. It would be balanced in another game where because again, the issue with Loki coming at it from another game perspective is a lot of the times the cards your opponent plays are useless to you in other games because there are different types of strategies. So you end up with a hand of counter spells in your aggro deck or whatever. But in this game, they all do the same thing. So fuck it. Just take their cards and do it for cheaper.
I'm trying to think if it so it's definitely broken in Flesh and Blood. I'll tell you that.
Is it actually?
Yeah, Flesh and Blood is a quantitatively balanced game. Every card is balanced off of a base equation. They all sort of add up to the same number.
Wait, seriously?
Yes. So Flesh and Blood is Flesh and Blood is not a card game. It is a game of arithmetic, and it is dominated by geniuses, I think. I mean, it's just I don't know. That sounds snobby to say, but it is one of these games that's starting to piss me off because there's a new draft format that came out. It's all one class. It's all the same set. So basically every card is draftable. There's no more getting cut off, which you're oh, it'd be so good. That was the downside of Flesh and Blood. No. So it's terrible because now you can play every card, and every card is literally just math. You actually don't play there's no context-based decisions. It's just a fatigue-based attrition deck format where you just try to go +1 or +2 over your opponent. And it's actually very skillful. The issue is that it's hard in a bad way.
It fucking sucks.
Yes.
Yeah, when you're describing
it's hard.
A game that sucks.
It's really challenging. It's really challenging.
Fucking sucks.
I'll tell you.
Why am I doing math problems for fun?
Yeah. And then unfortunately, so the thing is Flesh and Blood, and I don't want to riff too hard because I know we're talking about Marcel, but Flesh and Blood for a long time, for years, was this, people evaluate it very context first, and they value second, etc. And we'll talk about this iteration, and this happens in every card game. But then one guy came along current world champion, who was just like, oh, you just have this many cards, this much value. It's overrated by this point, and then it just completely shifted the entire paradigm of the community. And now everybody looks at cards and builds decks and plays the game based off math, which it was obvious at first, but it wasn't math first, context second. It was context, then math. And now it is just math. And it's the new draft for, yeah. Anyway, I even forgot where we were going from, but it's one thing that's killing me on Flesh and Blood, because like it actually makes me feel washed up. Like I tried to play, I played in a pod today. I was casting this.
Well, you might be though, right? I'm probably washed. When
I say it made me feel like I was washed up, I meant to say it made it very clear that I was washed up, which was frustrating. But yeah, it's I totally forgot where I was because I just blacked out on Flesh and Blood math.
Yeah, you just went, man. That was awesome. Yeah, that was great. That was some of my favorite. That was some of my favorite content we've ever done.
I got dizzy, the tunnel vision.
That was amazing. That was so fucking cool. I honestly wonder that about Marvel Snap sometimes too. It's like, well, we're just doing math.
It'll get there. It'll get there.
We're counting to 12.
It'll get there. I promise. So the one thing that isn't math is Loki. Loki's not math. Loki is a philosophical imperative over your opponent, where you're just like, I play your cards but better. Okay, that's a good thing to do. That's a good thing to do. Elsa is math. You have a 2/11 in your deck. Your opponent plays a 2/2. It's a joke. Like, it's not close. Like,
it is a joke. Yep.
Yes, Marvel Snap will get there, but because it's a digital game and because they stretch design so much with things like Loki, things like Alioth, things like these tech cards that blow up cards, like that doesn't happen in other games. There's counter spells or like an analog of like a Shang-Chi or something, kind of, or. Anyway,
I mean, it does happen in other games. Like Shang-Chi is like ravenous chupacabra, right?
Yeah,
like almost exactly. There's a magic reference for y'all. It's a 2BB destroy target creature ETB 2/2.
It's a dog. It comes down, it kills something, and it has a body.
Yeah, and like everyone lost their shit when it came out, and it's still just like, why did they do this?
I mean, Ravenous Chupacabra exists in Lorcana. It's just 9 mana, effectively.
Right. There's like, if I recall correctly, it's like unrestricted too. Like Shang-Chi has a restriction, and it's just like, this just kills the thing. That's it. It kills the thing. Enjoy your value trade. Literally just value trade on a stick. It's so cool.
Yeah, and if us talking about all these other games have nothing to do with Marvel Snap made you think about Thanos, well, I got a Thanos list for you. It's Daredevil, Elsa Bloodstone, Psylocke, Jeff, Mobius, Shang-Chi, Blue Marvel, Devil Dinosaur, Professor X, Vision, Alioth, Thanos. So you said this deck is competitive. It's good.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I mean... Okay, let's have the conversation. She's like, this innovative Thanos deck is, yeah, of course it is. It runs Elsa. What are we fucking talking about?
Hey, it doesn't run Loki, though. It doesn't play your cards but for cheaper. That's pretty impressive.
The main strategy, the main advantage that Thanos has is it has the most diverse selection of endgame options available, and that makes it just very, very difficult to play around, right? Your opponent that just snapped you after playing Time Stone on 3, is that a Professor X or is that a Vision? Is that a Vision Dino Alioth? Is that what's happening here? Are you getting Professor X'd? How do you play around each of them? What if they play that Dino on 4, and then you're like, okay, well, I want to Shang-Chi that later, and then they Professor X the Dino lane? Are you dead? Like, their endgame suite is so diverse, right? They have the giant idiot. They have the board-wide buff. They have the guy that doesn't die to Shang-Chi and goes everywhere. They have the guy that locks down lanes. They have the guy that blows up everything you played, right? Like their endgame suite of 5s and 6s is just like, oh my God, there's so much shit I have to deal with here. And playing around all of them is borderline impossible. And so that is the main advantage that Thanos brings to bear. Other than, of course, it plays Elsa. So, it plays Elsa, Jeff, and Vision, and a bunch of stones. And, like, yeah, that's also pretty fucking good.
It's just impressive to me that, like, it's impressive to me this deck is, there are decks that are competitive, playable, and good against Loki. Because Loki...
It's not good against Loki. No, I want to be clear. This has a bad Loki matchup. legitimately a bad Loki matchup. It's why I run Daredevil, because it's like when I play Loki, it's like that is the scariest goddamn card to see. It's like I see a Daredevil, it's just like, oh my fucking god. But if in a general sense, my god, this has a terrible Loki matchup, because they play the card Loki and you're an 18 card deck, so you might not have gotten Mobius, and then they just play your 4 energy blue Marvel, and you're just like, why did I fucking put anything good in my deck, right? It's got a bad Loki matchup. That's pretty undeniable at this point. But it's still good. It's still a good deck.
Mm-hmm. It's so funny to me that Marvel Snap is like so careful with making cards that make it so your opponent can't play their cards, blow up locations. I know Professor X still exists, but you know, they are really careful about these bad gameplay experiences. But when a Loki has played against you, what you just said is a hilarious question for a player to ask himself, is like, God damn it, why did I put these good cards in my deck? I should have put bad cards.
Why am I not playing Phoenix Force, dude? Why did I not give them a hand of like Taskmaster, Human Torch, and Forge? Fuck.
That is just hilarious. All right. Well, free to play hero Shuri. 0 Ebony Maw, Armor, Mobius, Lizard, Sauron, Shuri, Typhoid Mary, Taskmaster, Vision, Red Skull, America Chavez. I mean, this is sort of tried and true at this point.
It's the same deck it's always been. Mm-hmm. I think you probably want Luke Cage over Mobius now, but I have Mobius in there because I fucking hate Loki. But yeah, like if you're running a Shadow King, you make that swap. It's pretty much the same. They're not exactly the same card, but in the context of this deck, it's like, you know, pick which matchup you hate more and then run the tech card that's good against it.
All right. Well, those are our lists. Cam, I don't have the notes to like ask you this question because it requires a lot of notes, but there is an upcoming card. I literally forget.
Nico.
Yes.
Yeah. So here, I bet I can do it from memory. Hold on. Okay, all right. Let me see if I can do it from memory.
Like 12?
There's 7.
Okay.
So number 1, she turns a thing into a demon. Number 2, she destroys a thing and draws you 2 cards. Number 3, she moves a thing like Iron Fist. Number 4, she gives the next card you play 2 power. Number 5, she gives herself 2 power. Number 6 is Scarlet Witch. I'm blanking on the 7th. Hold on. I'll get it. I swear. It's something very, very obvious. It's like a really obvious one. I'm not going to get it, actually.
I'm going to take the under on you getting that. I don't have it. I told you I didn't have the notes.
Oh, okay. I actually do have it. Hold on.
Okay. So I'm going to hit you with the Marvel Snap hot take. Den, our friend Den, said that this is like a
okay, so what it is it adds a copy of it to your hand. That's the one that's the really obvious one. The next card, it adds a copy to your hand, and I got one wrong. I said it adds 2 power to herself. It actually doubles her power, but like, let's be real, it's adding 2 power because she's 2 power.
Maybe.
Anyway, continue.
All right, Den said it's the second coming of Thanos. Your thoughts?
Agree.
Expand.
It's insane in Thanos.
Every
single one of those things is unbelievable.
So is that the main use case for this card, slot in a Thanos?
Yeah. Okay, like here, let me walk you through them, right? Turning your next card into a demon. Congratulations. That Reality Stone, it's got 6 power now. After you play your next card, destroy it and draw 2 cards. Well, that's obviously ridiculous in Thanos, which has an insane amount of disposable bodies that do nothing. After you play your next card, move it 1 location to the right. Do you know who really likes cards being moved out of a full lane? Is Elsa Bloodstone. That's something, isn't it? After you play your next card, give it +2 power. Okay, she's a 1/4. After you play your next card, do Scarlet Witch. Yeah, so this lets you do Scarlet Witch on locations like Nowhere, right? Or even locations like Sanctum Sanctorum with a Jeff. As long as you can put a card there, it will go off. And that's nuts.
The floor,
right?
The floor on that ability is fundamentally favorable to the player playing it because you will have information on 3 locations and you are rolling a location to like base neutral. So like you see your worst location and re-roll it.
After you play your next card, add a copy of it to your hand. You know what's really good if you have 2 of them is Elsa Bloodstone. And you know what's good if you have 2 of them in a situation where you've already played your Elsa Bloodstone is a Jeff that just got an Elsa Bloodstone buff. Like that seems pretty strong to me there too. And then after you play your next card, double this card's power. That one's just, she's a 1/4.
Any decks not Thanos that you're thinking about putting this in?
Like Phoenix Force type stuff, but I feel like she goes best in Thanos because it's the deck that has all this flexibility, right? I mean, like, honestly, with what I just ran through, I mean, like, doing stuff like drawing 2 cards off a card, or doing stuff like duplicating your Elsa. Like, duplicating your Elsa is so fucked up, you might run her in everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's actually insane. Like, duplicating your Elsa is like, oh, man. Obviously, she's like a new kind of card. It's hard to evaluate a card with this much built in. But as far as I understand it, she goes through the 7 sort of randomly. So you end up in a situation where you can be like, all right, it's turn 6. I've had Nico in hand since turn 1. It's either going to be X or Y. And they're like, I don't know. I think the other thing that people aren't thinking about with this card is, you know what your Nico is, but your opponent does not know to play around it. And so there's a bunch of snap equity there where it's like, what the fuck are they possibly snapping on? And it's just like some esoteric Nico bullshit, right? Like, Nico allowed you to put 4 more power on a location than you expected because she was able to turn something into a demon, right? Just some weird final turn shit. I kind of think she's awesome. I'll be honest with you.
Mm-hmm. Will she help the Loki matchup at all?
Oh, no. Unless she makes the deck like really broken.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'll be honest, having 2 Elsas, very helpful with that, right? Like, yeah. But I mean, I kind of would try her in Loki, right? Because it's like, okay, I mean, it's a 1-drop. What do I care about it?
She seems like she goes into most decks. Like, actually, so the thing is, like, I think the biggest trap with Nico is like just hyper context evaluation, where you're like, okay, Nico, Phoenix Force deck, I play my Bucky Barnes, I do this broken stuff, he blows up. But
that is broken.
Yeah, it is. But the thing is, with Nico, I feel like most of the outcomes with Nico are actually they're above rate. They're just above rate.
Yep.
A lot of them are above rate. I guess the
question is, like, what deck can weave her in? And Thanos seems like the most obvious answer to that. Because, like, Thanos is a deck where it's just like, you just sort of take game actions.
Mm-hmm.
And then on like turn 5 or 6, you start making real decisions, right? But like the first 3 turns of the game are just like, I'm playing 1-drops and drawing cards. And she fits in great there.
Fascinating card. Really, really keen to see how that one plays out. Definitely the one I'm most excited for. Anyway, Cam, anything else to end on this week? Retrospective on Twitch drops, retrospective on the week. Looking forward to just Nico.
Twitch drops aren't even over. I will be fucking streaming like a madman for Nico release.
How long are they going for? I thought they were. I guess.
They end on the 30th.
Oh my god, that's a grind, brother. Enjoy that.
I know.
Enjoy that. All right.
But yeah, that's pretty much it for me.
Sweet. Well, if you're listening to this podcast and you enjoy it, you can leave us a review at ratethispodcast.com/snapshot. You can go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify. They all work. And it's the number one thing you do to help us out. We're on YouTube at youtube.com/@the_snapshot. Hit that subscribe while you're there. Brendan APG, MS on Twitter. Again, if you want to get your question read out next week, YouTube comments below. Bend and Snap section. Cam, your schedule. Actually, your schedule, it's going to be a different answer this week. Usually it's the same answer.
I mean, I stream evenings. That's what I'm guaranteed to be on. I may or may not start earlier or go later, but evenings, I'll be streaming Marvel Snap.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for listening. We'll see you next week.